Hey guys, what's up? This is White Boy for the win, and welcome back to Why Mega Evolved. Now, earlier this week we talked about Mega Bastiodon, and today we're going to be talking about Mega Xatu. But before we get started, let me just give you guys a brief explanation on what this series is about. Now, every week we'll be picking two Pokemon that either need a Mega Evolution, deserve a Mega Evolution, or want a Mega Evolution for. Now, this is based off my opinion alone, and no one else's. Now, if you guys do not like my opinion, then please post your own opinions in the comment section down below. But what would you keep? What would you change? And etc. And at the end of every video, we'll be telling you guys which Pokemon we're going to be talking about the following day. So with that said, here is Mega Xatu. Now, Xatu for me has been pretty much rising and becoming one of my favorite Pokemon. Now, I usually say that to all the Pokemon I do when it comes to like why Mega Evolve, because I really enjoy almost every single Pokemon except for a couple, like for instance Talonflame. I hate that thing with a passion, but that's besides the point. But when it comes to Xatu, if I'm not mistaken, it is in the PU tier, which is the lowest tier before like Little Cup and all that. And this thing, in like from what I've been seeing, when it comes to like competitive play, this thing gets overlooked a lot. And like, even though if it does get overlooked a lot, this thing can do a lot of work when it comes to competitive play, because usually before I go to bed, I go on Showdown and I go on random battles, and I've actually got Xatu quite a few times when actually getting random Pokemon from the random battles, and they usually carry most of the time the same set, and that's like Light Clay with Reflect, Light Screen, Roost, and like a stab type move, whether it's flying or psychic. But most of the time I believe it's psychic, or I don't know if this thing gets access to Psyshock. I know it's a psychic type move. I think it's yeah, it's Psyshock. I think it gets Psyshock or psychic. I can't remember which one, but most of the time it's mostly a psychic stab type move, and that's pretty much the only set I've pretty much seen on random battles. Now, sometimes occasionally I do see an offensive Xatu set with Calm Mind, Roost, a psychic and or Psyshock, and a flying type stab move is what I usually see sometimes when it comes to the random battles. But like I said, this thing gets overlooked a lot, and I feel like a Mega Evolution will rise in popularity, and I can see this thing becoming a very, very outstanding Mega. So as you can tell from what I've done to its stats, I did increase everything, because honestly, everything needed to get increased, even if it was just a little bit. So with that said, let's just get right into it. Now, for its physical attack, I increased it from base 75 to base 85. Now, Xatu as itself, just being without the Mega Evolution, being a base 75 for its physical attack, it's not actually half bad. Like, I literally just got done breeding a physical Xatu set. Well, I mean, I bred every Pokemon in the Pokedex pretty much, and I have it for a collection, but I bred a physical variant for a Xatu. And it's, like I said, not half bad. And the reason why I only increased it just by 10 points was because, like, Xatu gets access to U-Turn, and that is a Switch Initiative move, and I've seen a lot of people actually use U-Turn for a Switch Initiative to get out of the battle with Xatu, rather than just like hard switching and all that. And I wanted to increase it just to base 85, that way U-Turn would do a little bit more power. And also having a physical Xatu like set, it, like I said, isn't going to be half bad. It gets access to quite a few decent physical type attacks. I do have Therapy pulled up, and I'm just going to mention a couple of physical moves that you could run on a Mega Xatu, or just in Xatu in general, with like a Choice Band or like a Life Orb, if you wanted to go with like a physical route. I mean, it gets access to like obviously the regular normal type moves that pretty much every Pokemon get, like Frustration, Return. It also gets access to Aerial Ace, Steel Wing, you get Impact Thief, obviously U-Turn. It gets access to Drill Peck, Quick Attack, Feint Attack, Steel Wing, Sucker Punch, Zen Headbutt. That's a set already right there for Xatu if you wanted to go that route. So what I can see happening is that if you want, you can run the screens, but I can see this thing giving like maybe Roost and then like 3 offensive attacks. That's what I can actually see for Mega Xatu, or just Xatu in general, because this thing doesn't get access to like Swords Dance or anything. But once again, just slap a Choice Band or a Life Orb on this thing, and you're pretty much set to go. But for a Mega Xatu base 85 as physical attack, it's actually not half bad, and I can see this thing putting in a lot of work as a physical attacker if you wanted to go that route. Now, for its special attack, I increased it from base 95 to base 120. Now, I always envisioned Xatu being like a very, very offensive special attacker, and with base 95 special attack before the Mega Evolution is actually very, very decent. Like I said, usually most of the time when I go on random battles, when I see a Xatu on my team, I always see like the screens, Roost, and like a stab type move, either if it's flying or psychic, and it does a lot of damage actually. actually. So I wanted to increase it to base 120 because I can also see this thing being a very offensive special attacker, and not just because of like the set I just told you, because with like a psychic type move and a flying type move, Xatu actually gets access to a very good, decent special attacking move pool. And I'm just gonna list some. It does get access to like Signal Beam and Heat Wave. Well, Heat Wave, pretty much all the flying type birds gets access to it. But the one thing that actually like got me, I wouldn't say confused, but actually shocked the hell out of me, was that like Xatu gets access to Giga Drain, which is a very, very odd move for Xatu to get access to. I mean, it's a very good move to have as a coverage. I mean, like, don't get me wrong about that. It's just that it gets access to Giga Drain. Like, what possessed Game Freak to give Xatu Giga Drain? I don't know, but I'm not actually complaining. I'm actually like thinking, wow, that's a very good move for Xatu to actually have. But besides like those type of moves, it gets access to like Dazzling Gleam, which is very, very good for dragons fighting in dark type Pokemon. Shadow Ball, Psychic, I mean Hidden Power obviously, and that's pretty much like a whole set you can run. Oh wait, it does get access to Air Slash, and also Ominous Wind, so like it does get access to a very, very good move pool for a special attacking variant. Now what I can actually see you do for like its set, I mean a Mega Xatu set, is that you can give this thing Calm Mind, Roost, probably Heat Wave, and then like a Psychic type move or a Flying type move, either or. But I can see this thing being a very, very offensive special attacker, so that's why I increased it to base 120. Now for both of its defenses, I increased them both from base 70 to base 95. Now Xatu is a Pokemon mostly known for setting up the screens, Light Screen and Reflect, and it does carry the Light Clay most of the time from what I've been seeing, or sometimes Leftovers, but most of the time I've seen Light Clay rather than Leftovers. But besides the point, I wanted to increase its defenses to base 95 because like it's somewhat of a frail Pokemon with base 70 defenses, and I would like to see this thing be a lot more bulkier. I mean, the way it looks, like its design looks, you would think this thing would be a lot more bulkier. I would say probably base 80 is what I actually expected Xatu without its Mega Evolutions defenses to be at. But most of the time, what you see Xatu is setting up the screens and being a lot more bulkier most of the time, even if it does have base 70 in defenses. So like I said, I wanted to increase in the base 95, and if you still wanted to go with like the screen set, then it will be a lot more bulkier. It gets access to Roost, it gets access to Calm Mind, you can make this thing a special wall, and vice versa. So base 95 defenses is actually pretty decent, even if you want to run with like the screens and like Calm Mind and all that. But like I said, base 95 for its defenses is actually pretty decent. And last but not least, its speed. I increased them from base 95 to base 110. Now already Xatu is actually a very like decently fast Pokemon with base 95 speed. I thought its speed stat before like I actually did this video was like base like 70, maybe 80 at most, because it's not like I look at Xatu all the time and say, oh, it speeds like base 120 or something like that. No, I've always envisioned this thing being a lot more slower than it was, and being a base 95 actually blew my expectations out of the water. But I wanted to also increase its speed just a little bit to base 110. I don't see Xatu being any faster than that. I mean, to be completely honest, like base 110 is actually a very, very fast Pokemon. It'll be easier to set up screens. It'll be easier to set up with Xatu, be able to take a lot more hits, gets access to Roost. So in my opinion, being a base 110 speed, this thing I can see being very, very a very threatening Pokemon to have on your team. So like I said, base 110 is probably like the highest I can actually see this thing being fat, like speed wise. That's like the highest I can actually see it. But once again, I think its stats that I've given it is actually very, very balanced. I mean, if I would have to change anything, I'll probably have to change its special attack and its speed, probably lowering its special attack to base 115 and probably increasing its speed stat to base 115 to make it even. But once again, I don't really see this thing being any faster than base 110, and I think this is actually very good, like balanced, like base stats that I've given to Mega Xatu. Now, as a regular Xatu, its base stats at 470, and with the Mega Evolution, it's going to be at 570. Now, for its Mega ability, I decided to give it a new ability called Prediction. Now, before I get into what it does, pretty much what I wanted to do, like starting to do with the Mega Evolutions, is that I kind of want to start giving them new abilities, because like I don't want to keep seeing the same Mega have the exact same ability over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, we already have a couple of Megas, if I recall, that have like Pixelate and then like have Aerially. Like, okay, there's 2 Pokemon that have Aerially off the top of my head that I remember that are Mega Evolutions, which is in Pinsir and in Salamence. But once again, I don't want to see like the normal abilities that a lot of the Pokemon get, whether if it's Mega or not. I want to make new abilities because I feel like giving new abilities will actually change the metagame a lot. And I would like to see a lot like more Pokemon get a lot more limelight than just like seeing regular abilities that really won't help it all that much. But that's what I'd like to do with the Megas, and that's what I've done to Mega Xatu. Now, what Prediction does is kind of like Magic Bounce, and I know a lot of people are probably going to say, well, you should have just left it as Magic Bounce. It's like the best ability for it, because if you want to go with like a physical route, you can't get burned or you can't get toxic unless you have like toxic spikes up on your field and you switch out. I believe I think that's how this works. And so like pretty much you can't get status at all when it comes to Xatu, so you're pretty much going like a physical set, or they can't really stall you out with toxic or anything like that. But what Prediction does, like I said, is kind of like Magic Bounce, but what it does is that pretty much when Xatu switches out, whether it's from like U-turn or it's just a hard switch, and whatever you switch into, that Pokemon's gonna have like Magic Bounce for that turn, if that makes sense. So let me give you guys a example. So let's say my opponent has like a Prankster Sableye on the field, and I have Mega Xatu on the field. So what I do is either I U-turn or just hard switch out, and I switch out into my Mamoswine, and I feel like my opponent's going to go for like a Will-O-Wisp. Pretty much, it's going to be, when you switch into the Mamoswine, it's going to have Magic Bounce for that turn while also having its ability at the same time. So pretty much any status in element move or any like hazards are going to be pretty much bounced back to your opponent. Now that's what Prediction does now, because I also looked at Xatu's Pokedex description. I only looked at its X and Y and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire description because I looked on Saberby. Pretty much Xatu can look in the past and in the future, so I kind of went with its future prediction kind of ordeal, because then like if it can see in the future, then it's going to predict something to happen. So that's why I gave it the ability Prediction, because then like you can predict your opponent to go for like Will-O-Wisp, Toxic, Thunder Wave, Stealth Rock, Spikes, Toxic Spike, and all that. And that's what I actually want to go with its Mega ability, something to do with like its Dex description. So that's why I've given it a new ability called Prediction, and I hope I actually explained it all right. I kind of probably made people confused about it, but I do apologize. But last but not least, it's typing. Now I left it alone as Psychic Flying. I think it's the best typing for it. There's honestly no reason for me to switch to typing. I mean, if I was going to switch it, I'll probably switch it to either Fairy or Psychic Fairy or Psychic Ghost or something like that. I don't know, but it's a bird, it's a flying type. I'm going to leave it as flying type. It's a Psychic Pokemon. Decided to leave it as a Psychic Pokemon, so I just decided, like I said, to leave it as Psychic Flying. There's no reason for me to change it. But with all that said, there is Mega Xatu. So anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to comment and subscribe. Now, I know this video is probably a little bit longer than most videos, but I wanted to get my point across, and hopefully you guys understand what I explain about its Mega ability. But if not, I'll try to explain it in the comments the best I can. But anyways, the next Pokemon we're going to be talking about, we're going to be jumping back to 4th gen, because I feel like 4th gen is going to be the next generation that's going to get a remake and a lot more Megas from that generation. And the Pokemon we're going to be talking about is one of my favorite Pokemon from that region, and that is Yanmega. So coming, I believe, Monday? Yes, on Monday we're going to be talking about Mega Yanmega. Say that 10 times fast. But anyways, like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to comment and subscribe. So this is White Boy for the win, and I'll catch you guys later.